Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for tonight's event with Slow Food Columbus and Ohio State APOP. My name is Mark Anthony Arsenio, and for those who don't know me at this point, if this is your first time joining us, I am the Chair of Special Events and Programming for Slow Food Columbus and the Chair of the lecture series team leader for Ohio State APOP. Before we begin, I just want to bring your attention to the live captioning option that we have here on Zoom. So if you go, for the most part for folks, if you go to the bottom of your screen, you should be able to enable the closed captioning. And as I've mentioned in previous events, I apologize in advance if the words aren't exact. Right now it's just using the AI technology, so it'll be as close as possible. And when we're able to get to it, we'll make sure to edit the transcriptions as necessary. Just as another reminder, again, tonight's event is co-hosted by Ohio State APOP. And for folks who've attended the events before, Ohio State APOP our aim is to try and literally bring anthropology to the public outside of the walls and the space of Smith Lab where our department is held. One of the ongoing things because of the pandemic that's still available are the podcast series. So episodes 3 and 4 are up, and I believe a 5th one may be on its way if it hasn't already been posted. So do take a look at that. And then again, for Slow Food Columbus, we're the second set of hosts for tonight's event. If you have not already purchased your ticket for our producers panel, it'll be the first event that we are having live, which is really exciting. I know today is the deadline for that. And so if you haven't gotten your ticket yet, I know there's some in-person tickets for the first part of that event. So please head over to our website and get your ticket if you haven't. For those after today's deadline, if you'd like to attend for free, you can do so virtually. There's no cost for that. Just make sure that you register so you get the link eventually for that. But we're really just going to jump right in, and we're going to begin tonight's presentation with Dr. Vinayak Shedekar. I've got his brief bio up here on the screen, and so I'm just going to ask him to unmute. And Dr. Shedekar, you can begin your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Okay, I'm gonna start my screen share. I just wanted to make sure you're seeing the right screen and hearing me okay.
You're good.
All right, good, great. Thanks again. I want to thank the Slow Food Columbus and APOP for inviting me. And the picture that you had in advertise, I don't look like that at all anymore. So, but I just wanted to start by sharing just a little bit about me. I came to Ohio State in 2007 for my PhD program in this department, the Food, Ag, and Biological Engineering. And now I'm still here in Columbus as a research scientist. That's my wife and my daughter. My wife works in the same department as a postdoc, and my daughter Sanvi, she's 18 months old. So with that, I always like to open up with an icebreaker. So today, unlike your previous series, I'm going to make you work a little bit, if that's okay with you. So if you have your smartphones with you or your computers, get ready. And I would like you to go to slido.com or just type sli.do on your browser. And it will ask you for a event code. And I would like you to type in slow food, all small letters, slow food. So I'm just going to assume you all are there. If you are not yet, on the left hand side of this slide, you will always see where to go and what to type in to join that event. Okay. All right. So here is a first trivia for you. I'm guessing we're all Ohio State. So you all know we started in 1870. The university started in 1870. What was it called as the name of the university? The Ohio State University was called in 1870 when it started. So pick one of those answers and hit submit, or whatever that says, the green button at the bottom. Send, I think. So I know we have about 14 people, so I'm just going to wait until I get at least 10 responses. And it should be an easy question to answer. So I would like all of you to answer that question. So, all right, I'm assuming that's the most participants we can get. So, all right, well, let's see who all scored the right. So the right answer was Ohio Agricultural and Mechanical College. Just like Texas A&M still maintains its name, we were A&M college in the beginning. All right, okay. The next one is gonna make you work a little bit harder. There is the next question on your screen, on your phone screens or computer screens. I would like you to think about your childhood and all the places or times that you have lived through until this point. And I would like you to type in as many words as you can think of. Just keep typing and sending those words. If you like a word that you see on the screen, type it again, and it's essentially you're voting for that word again. So start typing, answer as many times as you can, and just tell me where your food comes from. So I'd like to see at least a few answers, and one person can answer 10, 15, 20 times. There is no limit. So let's keep going. Again, if you see something on the screen, type the exact same word, and that word will probably get a bigger. All right, I see a lot of people are going to farmers market. If I was typing this, I would be mostly saying giant eagle, giant eagle, giant eagle. So while we're doing this, Mark, I would like you to remind me when I hit my 10 or 12 minute mark. Okay, let's keep typing. If you're done, I can move on. But so all over the world, I like that. Restaurants, nice. Hawaiian farm. You must be someone who is really lucky to get Hawaiian food in Ohio. Grocery stores, greengrocer, everywhere. My parents' garden, I love that. Excellent. So, and farmers market, yeah, that's the butcher. That's okay, good. My garden is one of the smallest. So I'm guessing only one person is gardening here. All right, let's move on to the next one. It's more fun when we have a little more participation in this. So I would like you to think about an adjective or a descriptive word, definitely not an essay, but maybe one or two words that come to your mind. And just tell me a farm is. In your mind, a farm is. It doesn't have to be like what a definition of farm is, just whatever comes to your mind, what you think of when you think of a farm. And one good example is profitable. That comes to my mind. But you can think of all the things that come to your mind. And again, if you like something on the screen, type that same thing, same words. So you kind of vote it up. I'll kind of read all these. So keep typing. A place that food is fro. I'm guessing it's supposed to be grown, where food is produced, growing and learning, someone's livelihood. I love that. Nice. Produces food, a food producer. I was expecting to see someone mention that human factor, given this is APOP. So I'm glad someone mentioned the farmer. Place to grow something. All right, where the food grows. Excellent. Okay, I hope this was not too boring for you. Place that food is, I don't know what else got added later, but okay, where farmers live. Nice. Okay, I wish I could participate with you, but for what I have learned after being in this field for more than 15 years, and just based on what my experience has been, a farm is a farm, no matter where you go in the world. That's my answer to you. and a farmer is a farmer, no matter where you go in the world. So with that, I'm gonna kind of just give you what I'm hoping to share with you. There's a lot of technical details I could share, and I might end up sharing too many numbers with you, but I would like you to think of these 3 pictures, because that's kind of what the story is that I'm hoping to share with you. All right, before I go into that, because the theme is adaptation and resilience, and I come from the field that's more connected with agriculture, I thought it would be appropriate and to share some background. And you've seen this probably in the first of the series from Brian Snyder as well, that by 2050, we're gonna have a challenge to feed over 9 billion people, which would essentially require doubling the crop production or food production across the world. And agriculture faces that challenge of just being able to feed the world while dealing with all the challenges that it has. For example, climate change. This is how the global map would look like if you were looking at crop productivity in 2050. So while we're expected to almost double our crop production, the crop productivity is actually gonna reduce in all those red or orange shaded areas of the world. So that's one of the challenges. The area under agriculture is shrinking every year. Soil degradation is taking place, and it's really puts a lot of pressure on the sector of agriculture, and for that matter, that person that's actually doing this as a business, the farmer. But based on what's going on across the world in terms of sustainability efforts, if things are done right, yeah, it has a potential to feed the world and solve the climate change crisis to some extent. So it's interesting that a lot of times agriculture is blamed or is very well known to be a source of greenhouse gases and a contributor to the climate change. But I would like to draw your attention to this aspect, the carbon sequestration aspect. It has a potential to sequester some greenhouse gases as well. So I would encourage you to look at Dr. Ratan Lal's work. He's a world-renowned soil scientist, an Ohio State product, still at Ohio State, who won the World Food Prize for last year. So with that, there is many stories I could share with you based on where I have been in the world. And again, just bringing me back to that statement, a farm is a farm no matter where you go, and a farmer is a farmer no matter where you go. But one that's close to my heart is this picture right here. It's actually a farm that my mom grew up on, and this is still farmed. This small strip of land over here is farmed by my mom's brothers and her nephews back in India, in a small state called Maharashtra. Pretty diverse cropping system here. There's some rice production, some banana plantations, and a lot of sugarcane. And this right here is a dug well. At the bottom here is like a nice river. And the picture I was showing you, this is my cousin, took this couple years ago when I was there. And that dug well is where I actually took my first lessons of swimming. This kind of agriculture is struggling more in the world, especially in the developing world. The farmers are using agriculture not as a business, but as a means to survive, as a means of just surviving, and where the agriculture is not very productive. So there is a lot of challenges they are facing, including water scarcity, soil degradation, labor shortages, And when you go through this list, it almost seems like something that is very similar that the American farmers are facing. Thinking of climate change, this is a national highway in the middle of this picture that leads to my that village that I was talking about. In 2019, this whole region got inundated with floods because of these unprecedented rains. So all of these factors are making it challenging for agriculture to be sustainable. I'm going to leave it there and then bring it back, bring you to the US example or a story. And this picture right here is from the farm that's about 20 miles south of Columbus in Carroll, Ohio. And this is David Brandt, one of our collaborator farmers. And he is, thank you, Mark. He is one of the, his face might look familiar to you because he's known to have inspired a meme, and you may look it up later. It ain't much, but it's honest work. So, but that's not the only thing he has inspired. What Dave is doing here is he's using plants as his tillage tools. As you know, a conventional farmer would typically use plowing to kind of get the right conditions for the soil. Instead of using machines or steel, he's using plants. He's also using some plants that are literally his fertilizer plants. So this is crimson clover and buckwheat. The clover is a nitrogen fixing plant, and buckwheat is known to make some phosphorus available from the soil. So he uses these to reduce his fertilizer requirements. So after harvesting a crop and going into the winter and spring, this is how a typical farm would look like, or a field would look like. But this is how Dave's field looks like come spring. And that's because he grows these cover crops, is what we call them, to protect the soil. And what he does is after the spring, when it comes the time for planting, the conventional wisdom would tell people to have a field that looks like this. So there is no weeds or anything like that. But what Dave likes to have is a nice flat bed of green biomass, and he plants his crops in that biomass, rolls them down. And then what happens is over the time, because they are broken down, they dry up and create that nice layer that prevents the weeds from growing up and reduces his herbicide use. In addition to that, it also provides some unique diversity in the soil that the protein content in his grain is usually way higher than what you would normally see in a conventional produce. So there is a lot of benefits that these cover crops provide for the main crop. And then the main theme here is what he's trying to do is protect the soil during those winter times and the spring when there is nothing supposed to be growing in terms of cash crop, and the soil is just left to the natural forces. So when you plow a system, the soil tends to get loose, literally inwards, or turns the world upside down for all the critters and microorganisms that are living in that soil. And just as an example, Ohio State has one of the world's longest running experiments on comparing this plowed system versus a system that is not disturbed. And you can see how much soil they have lost just by plowing that land over 50 years or so. So, so all of this, what this relates to is sustainability, and being able to sustain those soils and the productivity and protect those soils over a long term, and building those soils over a long term. At the same time, when you have healthy soils, they tend to have good environmental benefits as well. I'm not going to go too much into detail in terms of the water quality issues that we're facing. You can see Lake Erie, the hypoxic zone in Gulf of Mexico. But all of these water quality issues are kind of being, agriculture is known to be primarily responsible, and we're looking into the water quality benefits of having sustainable agriculture. All the work that I'm doing, I'm involved with. This is my inspiration slide, and we'll talk about that later if you ask me a question about that. But I just wanted to end my presentation by giving you the message, because I think we were supposed to tell you what our message would be. And my message to you is plant a seed and make sure it grows. And it doesn't have to be a literal seed. It can be as simple as the idea of starting your own restaurant or a bakery shop and watching it grow. With that, I want to thank you. I'm sorry I probably took a couple minutes extra.
No, that's fine. Thank you so much, Vinayak, for sharing that. And we'll definitely make sure to ask about your inspiration more as we continue. As we're switching over to our next speaker, I just want to make sure that everyone knows, if you can, stick around till the very end when we do our giveaways. We'll do that right before we conclude. And if you have any questions for any of our speakers, please feel free to put that into the chat, and we'll use that to drive some of our questions later. Thrilled to have Hatice Küçüker, hopefully I got that right, and her husband Ali here with us tonight. They'll be talking about their time here in Columbus with Tulip Cafe, and again, share their experience. We've got some photos here, and then when we go, after we're through the photos, we'll leave it up to you to continue your presentation.
Thank you, Mark. Hi, everyone. I am Hatice Küçüker.
Hi, this is Ali. It's been more than 10 years. Now we are in United States, and my wife, there's a business person in her that is an unstoppable business personality, and I'm always supporting. In the beginning, my wife was doing this for charity purposes. We are the members of Turkish American Society of Ohio, that is located on 161. And she was actually the person in charge with her partner organizing the food festivals. And sometimes, I mean, more than 2,000-3,000 people were visiting the food festivals. I mean, they used to sell out everything. And she was also doing cooking and baking stuff with her partner, and doing some fundraisings for the church food pantries and stuff. And she got a lot of encouragements from the friends.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I wasn't planning to get food business because I am done to cook for more than 25 years at home. But when we try to show our food, the Turkish food, to farmers at the Tasso, and they like it, and they just encourage me to start the business.
In the beginning, people didn't know. I mean, she started in the farmers markets. I mean, the business started in the farmers markets. I mean, if you change the slide, I'm gonna talk about some other things. Okay, this is just like similar to what Mr. Shedekar shown. I mean, Turkey is located among 3 continents, and we have 7 different climates, and the geography of Turkey is very different. I mean, some parts have very high mountains. I mean, some in the for example, south coast, you can swim in the winter time. You can ski in the summertime in some regions. So different geography actually creates different cultures, different food cultures. And her partner is from the northeast coast, and my wife is from the west side of Turkey, where actually Saint Mary's house is located. This is the food map of Turkey, and since these two ladies are from different regions of Turkey, they are able to cook almost everything. I mean, we are also, I mean, me and my wife, we are travelers. We have been to 19 different countries before, and she's actually, she's like very knowledgeable about the food of different cultures. She makes good American style carrot cake with walnuts and stuff, and the cheese custard, you say? Cheese custard? Frosting, yeah. Mm-hmm. So since Turkey is located among 3 continents, I mean, and 100 years ago, it was not called Turkey. It was called Ottoman Empire. And they had lands in 3 different continents. And the cultures were influencing each other. And that's why Turkish cuisine is like rich, as you see in the picture. I mean, there are a lot of different types of food, as you see here. So the next slide. This is a video. This is what I mentioned in the beginning. I mean, this is gonna take 3 minutes if you are able to show it, if it is okay, Mark.
That's fine. We'll play right now.
I mean, my son created this video probably 5 or 6 years ago. I don't remember. The story started with the food festivals at Tassel, which is our cultural center.
Ateş attım samana, baktım ana dumana. Senin cavır anneni ben getirdim imana. Gımıldan gımıldan gımıldanıver, ah şöyle nazlımda gımıldanıver. Gımıldan gımıldan gımıldanıver, ah şöyle nazlımda gımıldanıver. Vayfede koydum cezveye, yarim gitmiş gezmeye. Ta küçükten alıştım ağız seni görmeye. Gımıldan gımıldan gımıldanıver, ah şöyle nazlımda gımıldanıver. Gımıldan gımıldan gımıldanıver, ah şöyle nazlımda gımıldanıver. kadayıfede koydum fincana. Selam söyle amcama. Amcam kızını vermezse turşuda dursun fincana. Kımıldan kımıldan kımıldanıver. Ah şöyle nazlımda kımıldanıver. Kımıldan kımıldan kımıldanıver. Ah şöyle nazlımda kımıldanıver. Kımıldan kımıldan kımıldanıver. Ah şöyle nazlımda kımıldanıver. Kımıldan kımıldan kımıldanıver. Ah şöyle nazlımda kımıldanıver.
Sorry guys, it was pretty long. It was Turkish country music, by the way. So the next slide is, probably you're going to
Yeah,
talk
this is
about
the first day of farmers market. We were just starting. We didn't know we just need to get table or other stuff. We just put the back of the car. This is the first one. And then we earned that day $28. And yeah, could you next one?
So it was, I mean, in the beginning, they were not very knowledgeable, and throughout the time, they
Yeah, it's
became,
getting bigger.
I mean, they got some trainings and, you know, followed whatever the procedures and the regulations over here health department is, you know, promoting, and they became more professional. And this was International Food Festival in Expo Center. There are a lot of other videos. I mean, if you visit Tasso Columbus, if you just type tassocolumbus.org or to YouTube, to the search bar, you are gonna see the other videos as well. So there's one more slide, I guess. And this is also one of the, first
Bread festival.
festivals they participated to make money at that time.
Mhm.
Right now, I mean, they are selling in all they are getting invitations from all the farmers markets, but they chose to be in Clintonville, Westerville, Worthington, and Dublin farmers market, and they were in Newark last year, and they are also planning to open a new restaurant in Dublin area. And I mean, after some time, I mean, when they started business, she also purchased a coffee shop in Westerville Uptown, and I was doing my best to support her. And we also have a coffee shop, but this is not with her partner. I mean, right now, my son is running the business, and
yeah, the
this is the
products is selling there too.
I mean, she's selling her products in there too. So this is, I mean, this story. I mean, this is not maybe very extraordinary, but I mean, this is the story of Tulip Cafe and one of the newcomers. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. And I meant to say earlier, Ramadan Mubarak. I hope I said that right. It's fascinating to see all of the wonderful food that you've prepared, and I know you're waiting for sunset to actually eat dinner. So
Yeah, when we were watching it, yeah, we realized that we're hungry. Not more.
wonderful. Well, thank you again, and we'll talk more at the end of the presentations. And Pramod Lama will be the final speaker for our panel before we move into our Q&A, and he'll be talking about his experience with Momogar. So Pramod, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I really don't have any slide shows, but I did, come up with what I'd like to share with you guys. So of course, everybody's interested in knowing how Momogar got started. It actually got started. It got started because, my wife's a great cook. Of course, I'm biased, you can say, right? but I always say she's a great cook. She don't like being, me to say that, but yeah, she's a good cook. And it started with, us just having friends over at the house. She would make the food and I would entertain, and everybody just said, you need to open a restaurant. You need to open a restaurant. And my wife actually had a store in New York, which she closed in 2014. And for 2 years, she was just, visiting family, hanging out, but she was looking for something to do. And, she talked about food truck. I kind of held her back on that, saying, I don't know, where do you park the truck? What do you do with the food in the morning? What do you do with the food in the evening? It just sounded like a headache. And then she talked about a full-blown restaurant. And that too was, never done it before. What are we going to do? No idea. But, she was relentless. She kept talking about it. And one day we were walking through Saraga Market looking for a Korean ingredient because she wanted to cook some Korean food. So then there was this place for rent, and that's how it got started. We signed the lease. And 2 days after we talked to the manager there, he said, come on over, we'll sign the lease. And so we signed the lease, no idea what we're going to do, except we're going to make some food that we make at home. We signed the lease, and then actually the day we signed the lease, went to the airport and left for vacation for like a week and a half. And I told her on our way to vacation, because we were going to hang out with 20 other friends, I told her, we're not going to talk about this because that will ruin the vacation. So we didn't talk about it. And on the day we wrapped up our vacation and was heading to the airport, then we said, all right, what are we doing? We signed the lease. Now we got to go back home and work out whatever we got to do. So anyway, after that we came home, and after we came back, I had to go somewhere for a week. So after that, we came back home. This was March, and middle of April, we started working on the original first Momogar, middle of April, and end of May, we opened. There was a lot of things to do. Of course, you got to go through the health department. You got to get permits. You got to get licenses, do all of that. We ended up doing all of that in 6 weeks and opening on our first day. And that is pretty much how Momo got started. We had no plans for ads. We had no idea. We were just going to open. And that's what we did. Luckily for us, people enjoyed the food. And the food is pretty much, if we want to talk about food, what we consider good, clean food, I would say whatever you cook at home. And Momogar serves pretty much whatever we used to make at home. I mean, we still make it at home, but mostly now we make it in the restaurant. And actually, I think it tastes a little better in the restaurant because the stove's BTU is much more powerful. Yes, that's how Momogar started. What has been challenges for us? I would say challenge has been, because I never worked in a restaurant. So that has been a challenge. I had to learn a whole new industry. Of course, my wife had worked in a restaurant as a waiter when she was a kid, and worked in the kitchen for her parents when she was 18 or 19. So that was the extent of our experience in a restaurant. But, there's enough help out there if you ask for it. There are enough people that will help you. You just got to be honest and say, hey, I don't know. I don't know. And then you'll figure it out. Yeah, that's been one of the challenges. The other challenge is Momo making is labor intensive. And there is not really, like if you talk about hot dogs or burgers, there is an industry out there that you can, pattern behind, go with their pattern, say, how do they do it? For Momos, especially in Columbus, there was nothing, so we had to start on our own. So that has been a challenge, but it's also been fun because you get to come up with your own idea on, how you should proceed. Like, for example, if you take one batch of Momo mix that we make, you're going to have to dice 14 pounds of onion and cut 27 pounds of chicken. How do you get it faster without changing the flavor? Because at home you do it, slow, but now you got to speed it up. So how do you keep it the same? So that has been a challenge, but I think we've, done pretty fairly well. We found the right equipment, right processes, right procedures. So let me see what else I got. So for the recent changes with COVID, I mean, for a long time, we, after we had Momogar, the first one, Of course, we got called to North Market, so we went ahead and did that too. And then COVID hit. So of course, everybody struggled during that time. So, initially the struggle was how do we stay in business to survive it? The government PPP helped a little bit. So we kept our employees, even though there wasn't much to do. So that was a challenge, and how did we overcome it? We never did Uber Eats, Grubhub, DoorDash. We never did that because the food that we make is too labor intensive, and those guys want 30%. If you didn't know, they want 30% off whatever you're charging. So we didn't do it for that reason. So we switched and started doing that too. So that kind of helped us. We're still not running at 100% of what it was before before COVID hit, but that helped a little bit. And we had to, of course, we had to also, like we had 4 people making dumplings. So now how do you, figure out how 3 people or 2 people can make not the same amount, but pretty close to, because you don't need to make as much as we used to make them before. If for numbers sake, before COVID, we were making 3,000 dumplings a day. Of course, we don't need to make that anymore because we're just not selling 3,000 dumplings a day. So we had to come up with new methods and ways to make enough dumplings with 2 people. So that was another challenge. And I think we've done well with that challenge too. Let's say the challenges were our prep time used to be about a day. So with our new, with the new methods and stuff, we've got it down to maybe 3 hours. So that's, I'm kind of excited about that. I kind of like that stuff. So my wife is the cook and I'm the technician. And before going full-time to Momogar, that was, I only did that a year ago because I needed to help her. I was a computer programmer, analyst. So I think that experience, all experience helped, and that experience has helped quite a bit. As for the future, what do I want to do? What do my wife want to do? And what about Momogar? What do I expect? What do I hope to achieve with Momogar? My goal's always been, I always say, shoot for the bullseye, and if you miss by a little bit, instead of just saying, I just want to, make, one Momogar run. Originally, my plan was, let's see, Momo's been around in, if we go back to Momo has been around in Nepal for a long, long time. And that is the #1 meal. You could open a, cafe where you're serving beer and wine. But if you don't serve Momo in Nepal, you might probably go out of business because everybody wants a Momo. No matter, you might open a pizza joint, you better have some Momo because they're gonna want some Momo. It's like you walk into a restaurant in Nepal and before you even look at the menu, you're like, let's have some Momo. So it's been that kind of food in Nepal, and it's been in New York for tens of years. And, just like if you think about tacos or burritos, they started probably like us, right? Only a select group of people eat it. So is it possible for Momo to be one of those in the future? So that would be fun and that would be exciting. But if it doesn't, it doesn't too, but I hope that's our goal. But right now the challenge is finding people to work for you, just because there isn't anybody out there looking for a job. So that's been the biggest challenge currently today. And the future will depend on if we can overcome this challenge of finding people to work. As for advice for people that might want to get into a restaurant business, if you have an idea, just go for it. Just go for it. You will be put in uncomfortable positions, but have a good plan. Don't do what we did. We had no plan. But eventually we had to come up with a plan. We just jumped in there and started figuring it out. That works too. If that's the kind of person you are, just jump in it and start doing it, and it'll eventually work out. From nothing to 6 weeks later opening, we were able to figure it out. And like I said, people do help you out. Even the government will help you out. Even the health department, if you call them, they'll help you. So they've been great. Every inspector I've met has been great. I've learned a lot. So yeah, if you're looking to open a restaurant or not start a business, just go for it. Do it. If there's a planning part and there's a over planning part that you don't even take the first step because you're always thinking of what about this? What about this? Get it to about 60% or 10% and jump in it. You'll figure out the rest. Well, thank you guys, and that's all I have to say. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that or got something out of it. Thank you. My wife can't be here because she's working. We're both working too. She can't be here, but her name is Funso. She is I gotta tell you a little bit about her. She's Tibetan family, Tibetan mom and dad, born in Nepal, grew up in Brooklyn. So she brings that culinary experience of all those three places is what makes Momogar great. She's got the Tibetan dumpling touch with a Nepali flavor to it because she was there, lived there till she was 14 and then moved to New York. And New York, New York's got its own, I mean, they still have their own Tibetan community, but they've got there's a slight change in flavor. So what we make at Momogar is pretty much what we make at home, and we're not changing it. Thank you, guys.
And thank you, Pramod, for sharing that your story with us. And I'm sure I've got tons of questions as well on my end, and I'm
Okay.
expecting that Victoria's got some questions, but I've got it now where everyone should be able to unmute yourselves. But I'm asking Hatice and Vinayak to also unmute as well. And we'll turn it over to Victoria to lead our Q&A session. Again, if folks are not comfortable being on screen or speaking through the mic, feel free to put your question in the chat. And we've got about 20-25 minutes for the Q&A. And then again, we'll do our giveaways for those who are here in attendance with us.
Hi guys, I'm gonna be running the Q&A. So again, like Mark said, if you don't feel comfortable talking in front of everyone, just send the questions in the chat and I'll read them out. So I had a question sent to me, and this is for Hatice specifically, you guys. Does this festival, the one that you guys had been speaking about in your presentation, take place in Columbus? And they asked if so, when and where.
Can you repeat the question? I couldn't hear exactly.
Yeah, they just asked the festival that you guys had been speaking about during your presentation, where it took place and when is it, and then where is it?
Where is it?
I mean, sometimes our facility became the TASO, Turkish American Society, Turkish American Cultural Center. It became like not big enough. So we decided to cooperate with a church on Battle Road, and we were using their facility to serve the food to that many people. I mean, right now during the pandemic, I mean, we were also organizing the event, but I mean, not in that scale. I mean, it was like smaller. The last one was on 14th of February. And if they visit the TASO's website, I mean, they're gonna see the announcements and everything if they are interested in, food festivals or the Turkish community.
I had a couple questions actually, Hatice, you guys. I was gonna ask you what's your favorite dish, just because that's always a fun question. So.
My favorite dish is the spinach cheese börek, because I am careful to not eat more carb. This börek is more spinach cheese and less dough. That's why I love that one. But I love all my products, to be honest.
Mark, also, if you want to jump in with questions that you really wanted to ask, feel free. I just don't want to miss any of your questions. Vinayak, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. I wanted to ask you, since it seems like agriculture is actually a bigger issue than most people would assume. What can like ordinary people, even students, do to help make it more sustainable, but also sustain it in a healthy way?
Excellent question. I don't know if I'm the right, I'm that qualified to comment on it. There is many things you can do, and I'm a believer of small things, doing small things. I know you can make a huge difference by doing small things. So just to start with, I think whatever you are promoting through the Slow Food Columbus, that is an excellent choice. A lot of times what that ends up doing is if you insist on a specific if you insist on specific requirements, for example, organic food, there is a premium that you have to pay. And so there is always these trade-offs. Probably half of the attendees here are grad students. And even when I was a grad student, or even when I was a postdoc, I never dared to buy organic food because it was just too expensive for me. But one thing people don't always connect with is or realize is just because it's organic doesn't mean that it was grown sustainably. There may be more energy that was put into it. There may be more labor that went into it. And so the best thing to do is grow your own food. And then you're assured that it's organic because you can, we did a garden plot through a nearby church, 15 feet by 15 feet. I did not buy tomatoes for 3 months. So these are just a small space. You can do a lot of things, and people think, oh, well, I have an apartment. Well, you can grow indoor food as well. So small things, when you go to grocery stores, eat something. Don't go to grocery store when you're hungry. You will end up wasting a lot of food because you will buy too much, and then you will end up having too much in your refrigerators. So small things like that. I have a lot of friends who don't realize what kind of burden we're putting on the environment. And what the justification I get from them is, no, I don't feel comfortable drinking the tap water. So I buy a lot of plastic bottles, but I make sure I recycle. And in my opinion, that's not what's gonna be sustainable over long term. What you want to do is minimize your footprint, whether it's in terms of energy consumption, whether it's in terms of that the carbon footprint. Always think about what you were growing up as a child and what the conditions were, and always think about what stories you heard from your parents or your grandparents and how they survived. I feel like that's the way to go, is to try to minimize our unnecessary needs, that created needs, whether it comes to food or anything that, like, you can see there is so much stuff behind me, and it just bothers me every day. But we freaked out when we were new parents and we bought a lot of stuff for our daughter. But I think being sustainable, it's important to just minimize your needs and live that way.
We had another question for you from the chat, and they asked, does OSU encourage or teach farmers to use tillage crops to improve/preserve the soil?
So yes, that's a big movement actually. So you would be happy to know that OSU has led the research into that conservation agriculture. But when nobody was even thinking about it, there were researchers at OSU who started those trials 50 years ago, who were promoting not tilling the soils. So OSU is always on that side where they are promoting conservation agriculture. The adoption of those practices, there is farmers who we call it recreational tillage. I don't have anything better to do in fall. I'm done with all my harvesting. I'll just get on my tractor and plow my field type of mentality. So that when it comes to the adoption, there is these early adopters, then middle adopters, and there are some that are skeptics that never adopt. So adoption rate in Ohio is about 35 to 40% for these conservation agriculture type of practices. So OSU is always promoting the OSU extension, the outreach programs.
We have another one. We got one for Pramod. They asked, can he share how his experience on the, I think that might be slopes, transfers to experience in the restaurant business?
Slopes as in ski slopes?
Honestly, if they want to, yeah, that they said yes. So I was kind of confused by that too.
I don't know. Nah, from the slopes, I don't think it translated much, but I think my personality being very friendly, like that's why I ended up being a ski instructor, because I like to talk to people and teach things and hang out with people. So I think that, I don't know if it's the slopes, but I think my personality helped us out with the restaurant, because I'm just a friendly guy. You come in, I want to, I want, what I always say is I always want Momogar to feel like you came to my house for a party, because I want to have a party. I don't want it to feel like work. That's why I like to work as an instructor too, because it doesn't feel like work. It just feels like a good time. You're having fun, So I think in that way, they're kind of similar. Well, my personality is similar in both disciplines, I guess, if you could say that. So I think that's kind of helped out. And the other way it helped out was because I work as an instructor, and I know a lot of people within the ski industry, and they ended up being customers, right? Friends and customers. So
I had another question for you, Pramod. I was going to ask, you talked about your struggles with owning a restaurant and running it during COVID, of course. I wanted to know how you're staying hopeful and motivated and kind of pushing through this hard time.
that I always say what's going to happen is happen, and you can only do what you can do, and you do the best you can. So that has been, that I keep saying this is going to end. This is going to end. We signed up for a new restaurant in the middle of COVID, right? June. We signed up for a restaurant, and we waited. We're thinking, let's open in January. By then, COVID will be over. It's still not over in January, and it's now April, and it's still not over. So last couple of days has been the worst for me, when I'm thinking, God, this is never going to end. But I do realize everything's got to end. And, we'll see. I'll give it another year. If this doesn't end in another year, I am done. Come visit me on the slopes. I am done. If this doesn't end, if this COVID thing and people can't just go out and have a good time, and if there aren't many people wanting a job to work, 1 year from now, if this is still going on, Momogar is done, and I'll see you on the slopes.
For Hatice, we had another question earlier from the chat. They asked, when is the next time Tulip Cafe will be doing a CFA trust fall?
Oh, we don't have schedule yet, but always I love to make food for them for the dinner, because we are not selling at the farmers market. We are just selling the pastry stuff. But I love to do dinner too.
We'll have to pass on that suggestion over to the CFA Trust Fall.
To that, yeah. Thank you.
For Vinayak, we had another question. Someone asked, in terms of sustainability, is frozen or canned food better, assuming that fresh from a garden isn't available?
When you're hungry, any food is good. You know what? I don't think I can answer that question without saying it depends. And that's a standard question answer that you get from researchers, is it depends. So think about it this way: the freezing and the canning, both of these processes are they're food preservation techniques. So essentially, it's not a luxury. It's like you want to keep that food available to you when it won't be. And that is what those mean. So I don't know if I have ever thought about whether it's which one is more sustainable. Those are more for like, especially canning, how it started. So I would say anything that you like, you should always get it. It's that's not the point, but don't waste it is my point, I guess.
So
I
the
also,
question,
oh, sorry, no, go ahead. You're fine.
so yeah, a question I've got. So for those who don't know, and I'm sorry for those who have already listened to me blab on about it. A lot of my own research focuses on food, place, and identity, and how those sorts of things change as a result of climate change or economic changes or social changes. And what's been interesting listening to your three presentations, all of the food and or the study is so place-based. There are very specific foods in different regions of Turkey. The soil is going to have different nutrients and things for it. I'm not sure all the ingredients in Momo, but I imagine there might be something that might be affected by it. So, I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but I'm curious, have you noticed any changes in your own lifetime, or are there any concerns that some ingredients may not be available, or it'll be more challenging to get some of those ingredients because of climate change, or because it's more difficult to get ingredients, or because they're more expensive, whatever the reason? Are there any concerns about that?
Well, who wants to go first, I guess?
You can go first if you want.
Okay. I right now, because we're so caught up in running a restaurant, we really haven't thought about that. But I do want to point out that when we cut our vegetables and whatever is left over, we have a garden at home. So we take all of the scrap to our house, and now we're trying to make a fertilizer pit and put it in there. So we don't really waste much scrap from the restaurant. And of course, I grew up in Nepal, and I know how scarce food is. And in Nepal, we had a habit of never throwing food. They would say "annale sarapsa," which means food will curse you. The food god will curse you. So we, even now, even though they're so plentiful, I have a hard time like throwing away food. So, because my mom has told me, you're gonna get cursed, you're gonna get cursed. So we kind of don't throw food. So we take it home. We have a urban garden. I'm lucky enough to have we actually have a 3,000 square foot urban garden where we grow probably about 60. I mean, it's not enough for the restaurant, but for our own selves, we don't buy tomatoes ever, because we got like 40 tomato plants, and it's just, and we share with all our neighbors because it's just not possible to eat all of it. We got corn, we got greens, mustard green, we got cabbage growing, we got, what do you call that thing? Lettuce growing. So we actually, all summer long, we don't buy any vegetables for our own personal use. We use it from our garden. I mean, the amount of tomato we get out of 40 plants is buckets and buckets. We actually walk around the neighborhood and give it to our neighbors because we just can't eat it all. But as far as being, worried that we might not be able to find ingredient right now, Restaurant Depot seems to have enough. So the prices keep changing, but I really haven't thought about that right now. But we do use one ingredient I kind of worry about because we bring it from Tibet. So that's the only one I kind of worry about right now, that we might not be able to get it. So I don't know if that's a complete answer, but.
Yeah, we are not as lucky as Pramod. We cannot grow anything like pistachio. Pistachio is one of the main ingredients of baklava. And if we are ordering, importing from Turkey, only in a specific region in Turkey, that quality pistachio is grown. So there are two actually major types of pistachio in the world. One is called Iranian, other one is Turkish. And Turkish pistachio is $29 per pound. And the other one is also grown in California, and it is $9 something, $9.50. So the color is different, taste is, and the smell is different. And if you want to serve, high quality baklava, you need to use that specific type. So it is sometimes difficult. I mean, it is increasing your costs. And sometimes, I mean, when we eat food in some restaurants, Turkish restaurants, for example, I was in New Jersey. I mean, I was not finding the same taste. And some people working in the kitchen area told me that the water is not the same. I don't know if it is true or not, but I mean, sometimes people are finding excuses when they are not catching the same quality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so different than when I buy the farmer's market. I usually buy farmer's market eggs and spinach and the other stuff. It's so different than market. I pay extra, but it's worth it. To taste is better. I usually decide to get from them.
I'm not sure if we misunderstood the question. I mean, if that.
No, that's a great response. You got it. And then Vinayak, is there anything from your research that might suggest concern or not concern?
That's the answer. Sorry. I cannot think of anything that, just like I mentioned, about, I would say 40, 50 years ago, the food tasted different because the nutrient densities were different. And there is two reasons for it. Mainly soil quality degradation, and then the improvement of species that we did in terms of hybridization or the genetic modification. Those attempts, what they did was, it was a selective process of trying to get certain things achieved, and usually they would tend to be like higher yield or more resistance to drought or pests or whatever. So there was very few crops that were actually designed for better taste, like if you take an example of oranges, I guess, yeah, definitely they were made sweeter. Sweet potatoes is an example. They were, for African countries, I think there was a sweet potato variety that was developed that would have more vitamins in them. So there are examples which would be like that, but in terms of taste, it's less of a concern versus the productivity. So I can't think of specific examples or names.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Okay. This is for Vinayak, because we talked about sustainability, organic, right? And we also talked about being able to feed, what is it going to be, 9 billion, 10 billion people eventually. So, and also there is, people keep talking about GMO is bad, but is it possible to feed 9 to 10 to whatever number of billion people we're going to have by 2050, 2060 without help of something like GMO?
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be possible, I think. And that's always a question. Like there is the left and right side. And so there is chemical fertilizers, pesticides, and GMOs. And unfortunately, there is always this debate. And if I end up answering it one way or the other side is not going to be happy. But this is my opinion rather than my research. Is as of now, for maintaining the agricultural productivity, we do not have a choice but to keep using the chemicals in terms of the fertilizers at least, and using these genetic modifications. The GMOs are not always something that would cause harm. They have done a lot of good, and in fact, the plant breeding process is genetic modification through natural ways. So did it in the lab, that doesn't mean it was all bad.
Right.
Just a short answer to that is, as of now, I don't think there is a solution that is 100% natural, or it's just the way how intensive our systems have gotten. That we just cannot get away from those unless we find another planet to grow our food.
Right. I didn't think so. You know, my opinion on that is it's just not going to be possible to feed that many people without science getting involved in it.
Right. As I said, the farmer that I showed you, it's not like he doesn't use any chemicals, but what he does is he uses nature as much as he can and then supplements those plants with whatever they need just on top of that. So in a typical farm, a farmer would be applying 150 pounds of nitrogen per acre versus Dave Brandt, who applies maybe 20 to 30 pounds per acre. So it's like a hybrid approach.
Yes. Thank you. Hey, Victoria, Mark, I'll probably have to run in a minute. So if anybody has any questions for me, I will be glad to answer it.
Yes, for sure. We're actually going to just do our giveaways really quick, and then we'll be able to sign everyone off as soon as possible here. So we've got 3 sets of giveaways that we want to turn our attention to. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get to Vinayak explaining the inspiration behind all the different inspirations that he's got, but one of those is Albert Einstein, as he shared with me. And so our first giveaway is for a copy of Einstein, His Life and Universe by Walter Isaacson. It looks like we've got 8 folks who are eligible. Our current panelists and any exec board members are not eligible, but I'm going to ask Vinayak to please choose a number between 1 through 8.
I would pick 3.
3. Okay. So that's Dan Barash. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I'll follow up with you to make sure that you do get a copy of that book. Next up will be a tote bag and gift card that's being provided by the Worthington Farmers Market, and you can find Tulip Cafe there. And so Hatice and Ali, if you can please choose a number between 1 through 8 that is not 3.
5.
5. All right, that's Daniel Cohen. And Daniel, congratulations. I'll be in contact with you. And then finally, I still need to get to the new Momogar in Dublin. So when I get there, I'm going to pick up the gift card that we're going to give to our final recipient. And so Pramod, if you can choose a number between 1 through 8, again, not 3 or 5.
1 to 8, you said, right?
Yep, 1 through 8.
Yep, 7.
7. All right, and that's actually Victoria, who's we love the Q&A. So, especially thank you, Victoria, for all the work that you've done for the series this semester. So congratulations to all the winners, and again, I'll be in contact with you so we can figure out a way to get that to you. For everyone else, I'm just going to put here the QR code for our final piece of participant feedback. Go ahead and scan the QR code, or I'll be sending an email to everyone with the link to that, as well as a recording for tonight's video recording. And with that, that's the end of our series this semester. I want to just thank everyone for taking the time for joining us. And I guess we'll just end it there. Have a good night, everyone.